Hello students, welcome to NIOS Studio. Today we have brought for you my first steps. This is your first lesson for class 12th and I am your teacher Rajni Gemini. I hope you enjoy the lesson with me. So let's take a look at as to what my first steps is all about. But before we begin, I want you to identify this picture. I know some of you may already know him, but others, come on guys, put on your thinking caps. This gentleman was born on July 10, 1949. His birthplace was Bombay, now we call it Mumbai, Maharashtra. And his height is 5 feet 5 inches. So, are you thinking about who he is? And here is the next clue. I am sure now you know who I am talking about. His nickname is Sunny. He is also known as, he is called as Sunny by his friends and others. So, students, tell me who he is. Yes, you guessed it right. Absolutely. He is Sunil Gawaskar. He is a right-handed batsman and he has been India's first world-class cricket icon. He was also known as the original Little Master. So, students, today we are going to read an extract from his autobiography, My First Steps. But before I, take you further, let us have a look at as to what all we are going to learn today. What are the learning objectives of today's lesson? So, students, after completing this lesson, you will be able to read and understand what an autobiography is. Also, you will be able to use the simple past tense. Then, you will be able to make and use compound words. Then you will learn how to transform sentences into negative and interrogative. And finally, you will improve your vocabulary. So, that is quite a lot to look forward to. But I am sure this is all going to be fun. So, beginning, what is an autobiography? Yes, it is a self-written account of one's life. Students, a biography is one which is written by someone else. But an autobiography is when you write about your life on your own. So, today, remember, we are reading the autobiography written by Sunil Gawaskar, the ace cricketer. Let us read a part of the lesson and what he says about himself. I may never have become a cricketer, and this book would certainly not have been written if an eagle-eyed relation, Mr. Narayan Masurekar, had not come into my life that day. I was born July 10, 1949. It seems that Nankaka, as I call him, who had come to see me in hospital on my first day in this world, noticed a little hole near the top of my left earlobe. So, that was the first part. Students, now today, since you are reading with me, I want to share certain tips with you, how to make your reading better. So, students, the best way to make your reading better is, whenever you read a chunk of text, always have some questions around it next to it and try to answer those questions from that text itself. Here, I have taken the first question that is also there in your book. When was Sunil Gawaskar born? So, look at this text and try and find out when was Sunil Gawaskar born. It has already been given. Now, you know when you are asked when, what are you going to do? You are definitely going to look for a date. And what is the date that has been given here? July 10, 1949. So, you got it absolutely right. So, he was born in July 1949. Now, this is one question that I have taken, students, but you can also make some questions on your own. So, whenever you are reading a chunk of text always try to answer and tell yourself some questions. Let's read further. The next day he came again. Now who are we talking about? He. Of course, Nankaka as he calls him. So the next day Nankaka came again and picked up the baby lying on the crib next to my mother. To his utter horror, he discovered that the baby did not have the hole on the left earlobe. A frantic search of all the cribs in the hospital followed, and I was eventually located sleeping blissfully beside a fisherwoman, totally oblivious of the commotion I had caused. The mix-up, it appears, followed after the babies had been given their bath. So students, another chunk. Now you know that Sunil Gawaskar was born, and right on the first day his Nankaka had noticed that he had a little hole under his earlobe. But the next day when he comes, what happens? The baby who is sleeping next to the mother is not the same baby. So what happens? Students, let's have a look at some more questions. What did Sunil's uncle, Mr. Narayan Masurekar, notice when he came to see the baby in hospital? Now, where are you going to look for the answers? Students, as you can see on the left hand side, you have the text. So, what did Mr. Masurekar notice? He noticed, of course, that the child sleeping next to the mother did not have the hole. And what did that tell him? That told him that this is not the Sunil that was born in their house. And where was the missing child located? Where was he found? Again students, look to your left, look to your left. What do you see? Where did they find the baby? Of course, the baby was sleeping next to a fisherwoman. So students, if Nankaka had not been careful, what would have happened? We would not have had the cricketer that we know. Let's read further and see what happened. Providence had helped me to retain my true identity and in the process charter the course of my life. I have often wondered what would have happened if nature had not marked me out and given me my guard by giving me that small hole on my left earlobe, and Nankaka had not noticed this abnormality. So students, see what happens here? So many things that we consider abnormal, so many things that we find, that we are not happy about. Sometimes even those abnormalities are there because they have some purpose to serve. In Sunil's case, he would have lost his home, he would have lost his parents, he would have probably grown up only as a fisherman. But that abnormality saved his life. Perhaps I would have grown up to be an obscure fisherman toiling somewhere along the west coast. And what about the baby who for a spell took my place? I do not know if he is interested in cricket or whether he will ever read this book. I can only hope that if he does, if he will start taking a little more interest in Sunil Gawaskar. So students, now that we have read this chunk, now you know what it is that you have to do. Yes, read the question on the right. Okay. Students, while you are answering that question, we are going to take a small break. Thank you.
कोविड-19 यानी कोरोना वायरस देश एवं संपूर्ण विश्व में व्याप्त विषाणु जन्य समस्या। लाखों लोग इस संक्रमण की चपेट में। इसका निदान है जागरूकता के साथ हम और आप स्वयं। कोरोना वायरस के इस संक्रमण से संपूर्ण भारतवर्ष भी एक विकट स्वास्थ्य की परिस्थितियों से जूझ रहा है। भारत सरकार द्वारा गांवों से शहरों तक व्यापक जांच, उपचार और विभिन्न नैदानिक व्यवस्थाएं की गई हैं, लेकिन अभी हमें करना है इससे बचाव। बचाव है आपस में 2 गज की दूरी रखें, मास्क जरूर लगाएं, हाथों को बार बार साबुन से धोएं और हाँ, आरोग्य सेतु ऐप पर लॉगिन अवश्य करें। घर पर रहें और NIOS की स्व अध्ययन सामग्री से पढ़ते रहें। आपके लिए PM ई-विद्या पर टीवी, रेडियो वाहिनी और मुक्त विद्या वाणी पर ऑडियो कार्यक्रमों का प्रसारण भी NIOS द्वारा किया जा रहा है। आपसे एक ही अनुरोध है, जब भी छींकें, मुंह और नाक को ढकना ना भूलें। भीड़ भाड़ में जाने से बचें और सामाजिक दूरी का पालन करें। और एक बात, जब तक वैक्सीन नहीं आती तब तक मास्क को ही वैक्सीन समझें। साफ रहें, स्वच्छ रहें और स्वस्थ रहें। 2 गज दूरी, मास्क है जरूरी। किसी भी आपदा की स्थिति में संपर्क करें टोल फ्री नंबर 1075 011 23978046। ईमेल करें ncov2019@gov.in।
प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने, हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। हम
अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने।
धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो,
धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े, वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े, वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
मित्रों हम उठे और जागे,
मंजिल आने की ध्वनि सुने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने।
राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालय का है द्वार खुला सबकी खातिर।
शिक्षा परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर।
शिक्षा और परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर। दुनिया में इसके केंद्र बात,
कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने। स्वयं बने, हम
Welcome back, students. And remember, we were discussing about Sunil Gawaskar and his autobiography, My First Steps, and what a bungle up had happened. Sunil Gawaskar was born in his house in the hospital, but what happened? The next day when his Nan Kaka came, he was not to be found next to his mother. And what made him identified? He was identified because he had a hole on his left earlobe. So, students, you read this part and I had asked you to answer this question. If Nan Kaka had not noticed the hole on his ear, where would he be living? So, where was he found? He was found next to a fisherwoman. So, we would not have a cricketer, we would probably have a fisherman. So, students, now that we have read this part, I want you to find words from the passage which mean the same. Remember, I had said that we are going to be developing our vocabulary. And the best way to develop the vocabulary is whenever you read a text, always try and find out the new words and their meanings. And today I am also going to share a trick with you. So, students, you have these words. Look at the first one. Looking at things with great attention and noticing small details. You have 4 options, but how are you going to find out which one is the correct answer? So, students, for that, what is it that you need to do? You need to think back on what you have read. Who was the person who was looking at things with great attention and noticing small details? Of course, your Nan Kaka. So, let us go back to that particular chunk of the text and find out which word are we talking about. So, let us have a look. So, you had this text, I may never have become a cricketer, and this book would certainly not have been written if an eagle-eyed relation. Yes, students, that is the word. An eagle-eyed person is the one who notices even small details. So, now you know which word we are talking about. We are talking about eagle-eyed. Now, let us have a look at the next one. Unaware of what is happening. Who was unaware of what was happening? Of course, the baby Sunil. He did not know what was happening to him, whether he was sleeping next to his mother or to the fisherwoman. So, what word would that be? Let us go to that particular text and find out which word that is. So, students, here I was eventually located sleeping blissfully beside a fisherwoman, totally oblivious. So, what is the word? The word is oblivious. So, students, now you are getting a hang of the trick, isn't it? What is the trick? Find out where you read the meaning, try and locate that particular word in the text. And our last 2 words are unknown and finally a short period. And what are the options that we have left? One is obscure and the other is spell. And of course, students, both the texts are part of that last chunk of the text that we read, and that is, here we are, obscure. I would have grown up to be an obscure fisherman, someone who is not known by anyone. And finally, spell. What about the baby who for a spell took my place? A spell here means a short period of time. So, students, that is how you learn new words. So, I am sure you are getting the trick. So, let us read on and find out what happens to Sunil, baby Sunil, right? These are the right answers. Please note them down if you haven't noted them already. Here they are. And of course, I am sure you are learning the tricks. Now, moving on, he talks about his mother, who was the first coach that he ever had. Gavaskar remembers another incident. His mother used to bowl to him in the small gallery of their house where they played their daily match. So, look at the baby with a tennis ball. I am sure all of you have also played with your friends, but in this case it was his mother who used to bowl to him. Since the area was small, his mother would kneel to bowl and rather lob the ball to him. Once he hit one straight back and caught her bang on the nose, which started bleeding. Poor mother. But she was his first coach. Although it was a tennis ball, the distance between the two of them was so short, which accounts for the force with which the ball hit her. Gavaskar was frightened, but his mother shrugged the pain off, washed her face, and as the bleeding stopped, they continued the game. So, the mother is a strong woman. She is not there to sit and cry. She just ignores the pain, ignores the blood, washes her face and continues playing with the child. So, that is the kind of value, that is the kind of grit, that is the kind of perseverance that he learned from his mother. His father was also a good club cricketer in his days, and he was a keen student of the game. So, these were not his only teachers. He also had his uncle Madhav Mantri, who played for India in 4 official tests, though he was not very successful. But whenever Sunil went to his uncle's house, his favorite pastime used to be to take out his uncle's pullovers, and he used to caress them with a sense of longing. He wanted to wear those pullovers, but his uncle told him that one has to sweat and work hard to earn the distinction of wearing those colors. It was a lesson that Gavaskar learned from his uncle. So, so many times parents, relatives, they indulge children. Sometimes they feel that just because he is a child, his every wish should be catered to. But Sunil's uncle was not like that. Had he given him those pullovers to wear, maybe Sunil would not have worked that hard to become a first rate player to play for the country. Students, now we are going to learn simple past tense. Like I said that today we are not just here to read a particular lesson, but we are also going to learn how to improve our vocabulary and things of grammar also. So, past tense. First of all of you know that past tense is what is it all about. Let us read a few sentences. Sunil Gawaskar wanted to become a great batsman. Wanted. He hated losing his wicket. Again, notice the word hated. We played our daily match with a tennis ball. Played. The doctor examined my teeth. Now, all the incidents that are mentioned in these sentences, are they taking place now? I am sure you can make that they are not taking place in the moment. All of these events are taking place in the past. Now, what are the things that you have to notice in those sentences? Have a look at them again. What do you notice? There are no helping verbs. Now, some of you may ask me, what are helping verbs? What are helping verbs? Was, were, had, is, am, are. Now, these verbs are not being used here, and when they are not used, such use of verbs is called the simple past. All that we have done is we are using the second form of the verb. Say for example, work has become worked, create has become created, want has become wanted, and irregular verbs like go, come, see, that they have different past tense. So, for go you would have went, for come you would have came, for see you would have seen, and for find you would have found. See, for see you would have saw. So, students, are you ready for some activity now? I am not going to do all the teaching, you have to do the learning. So, if you are ready, I am going to give you an exercise, some activity to do. And here is your activity. you have to complete the following using simple past tense. Remember what I told you, you have to use the second form of the verb. So, are you ready with your pens and papers? Start writing, your time starts now. How much time do you think you would need for this? You have about 6 or 7 fill in the blanks. Let's do them together. When Sunil Gawaskar was born, a relative, what is the second form of come? Yes, you are absolutely right, it is came. A relative came to see him in the hospital. His name is, now what would come here? Past tense of is. His name was Mr. Narayan Masrekar and he had sharp eyes. He, again the word is notice. What would be the past tense of notice? Noticed, of course. For regular verbs, we only need to add D or ED at the back. So, he noticed that the newborn baby had a hole on his ear. The next day, when he went again and picked up the baby, he found that the hole was missing. Everyone started searching for the missing baby. At last, Sunil was found sleeping beside a fisherwoman. So, students, well done. These are your answers. Just check if you have gotten them right. But I am sure you have done very well. And you are a wizard. You are champions of what you are doing. Very good. Well done. So, are you enjoying studying with us? Students, continue. Let us read on and find out what happens. Always a batsman. So, Gavaskar was always a batsman right from the beginning. I am sure many of you have also been thinking that you like to bat more than you like to bowl. But for him, there was never any doubt. Right from the beginning, he wanted to become a batsman and hated losing his wicket. This became such an obsession with him that if he got out, he would fight and walk home with the bat and the ball. This would bring the game to an abrupt end since nobody else had a ball or bat. You also must have seen this. Whenever you are playing gully cricket, the person who owns the bat and the ball and the wickets is the king of the game. So, as a child, Gavaskar played the king like that many a time. The boys cursed and called me names, but the tension did not last long and we generally got on very well. So, students, this scene that you see so many times near your park was something that happened with Sunil Gawaskar also. But that does not mean that he was mean or he was not nice to his friends. In fact, his friends and they were a great team and they often played matches against team made up of boys who were living in the neighborhood building, and there was also a tremendous interest in the trophies as we called them. So, they used to put money together, they used to collaborate, contribute, and then they would buy white metal cups which they would buy sometimes for as little as 1 rupee or only 1.5 rupees. So, you can imagine how cheap they were at that time. But for a trophy, it is not the price of the trophy that is important. What is important is that feeling of winning. So, he always loved that feeling and he led teams to win even at that age. So, students, he was always like that. Now, like I said that we are going to also learn how to make compound words, because in this lesson you have seen that there are lots of compound words that we have. I want you to have a look at the text that you have just read and you can find out how many compound words we have done. But before that, I want you to have a look. You have two pictures on your screen. One is the picture of a basket and the other is the picture of a ball. So, what happens when you join basket with ball? it becomes a basketball. Absolutely. What do you see on the screen now, students? What is it that you can see? One is a tooth and the other is a paste. So, what does that make it? Toothpaste. Wow, well done. What do you see on the screen now? Okay, there is a bed and a room. So, students, when you put these words together, what happens? Basket plus ball becomes basketball, tooth plus paste becomes toothpaste, and bed plus room becomes bedroom. So, these words, when these two words are put together, what do they become? They become compound words. And these small words, when they become compound words, a new word has an entirely different meaning. I have some more words here for you. Study these words. Storehouse. Storehouse. It is made up of the word store and the word house. Then you have backyard, which is made up of the word back and yard. Rice cake, made up of rice plus cake, and every day is made up of every plus day. I am sure after learning compound words with us today, you will be noticing these words in whatever you read. So, let us make some more compound words, and this time you have to answer. So, guys, here is your puzzle, here is your activity. What do you think is going to be the answer? You have a ball and you have a pen. Put on your thinking hats. Oh yes, absolutely right. This is a ball pen. Now this one is a little difficult. What is it? Okay, one is a wheel and the other one is a chair. So what does that make it? It becomes a wheelchair. Very good. And next, take a look. You have table and you have cloth. So, what is our word? The word is tablecloth. And finally, you have an arm and you have a chair. So, what does that make the word? Armchair. Very good. Students, this is how you make compound words. So, this one I am not going to tell you. Have a look. Have a look and you tell me. Absolutely, butterfly. So, now my question to you is, what is a compound word? I am sure by now you know it very well. So, what is a compound word? Made up of two words put together to form a new word with a different meaning. So, students, in this lesson also you have seen many compound words. Now, compound words are written in three different ways. Some compound words are written with a space between the two words. Say for example, you have the word car park and you have gas stove. So, they are written as two separate words only, while some compound words are joined together with a hyphen. Say for example, you saw the word eagle-eyed in the lesson and the word 24. Some other compound words are joined together completely. Say for example, you saw the word fisherwoman in the lesson and the word staircase. So, three different types of compound words that you have. And finally, I want you to read the following sentences carefully and choose the compound words in each sentence. So, students, I hope you have your paper and pen with you. This is your exercise. Read them carefully and write those compound words in your notebook. She was reared by her grandmother. This one is easy, right? The answer is grandmother. It is made up of the word grand and mother. Next one, Hannah was in class when she complained of headache. So, 2 words, headache. Then the next one, the plants at the backyard are starting to have flowers. Backyard, okay, so the word is back plus yard. The policeman heard the shouts of the drowning boy. So, which one is the compound word here? Of course, you got it right. The policeman. So, police plus man. Nandini likes to eat cheesecakes, and here the compound word is cheesecakes. It is made up of cheese and cake. So, students, now you know enough about compound words. So, are you ready for a bit of activity? Aren't the activities fun? I know that you enjoy them. So, let's see whether you enjoy this one or not. You have to match the words in column A with those in column B to form compound words. And students, here are your words. What is it that you are going to match grand with? Of course, grand box, not possible. Grand crumbs, no. Grandmother, yay, you got it right. Then you have bald. Bald sighted? No. Bald headed? Yes. That is your word. Then the word is short. Short box? No. You cannot have a short box, you can have a small box. So, short sighted, when you are not able to look at things which are close to your eyes very clearly, then you are short sighted. Then bread. What are you going to match with bread? Bread crumbs, yes. And letter, yes, there you have it, letter box, letter box. Okay students, that was good, that was amazing. You are an absolute wizard when it comes to activities and tests. So, great that you enjoyed it. Now, are you ready for learning something new also in this lesson? And what is it that we are going to learn? Transformation of sentences. Isn't it amazing? Now, that is one important question in your lesson that you get, transformation of sentences, and we are going to be doing the transformation of some important types, but not all. So, students, be ready with your pen and paper. There are 3 types of sentences that we have in English generally, and what is the first one that you have on your screen? Yes, the first one is affirmative sentence. Now, what is an affirmative sentence? Have a look, you have the examples. Priya works in Gujarat Gas. You are very intelligent. I am having lunch. He was working on his project yesterday. What do you notice in all these sentences? That these sentences do not have a negative or not have or no word, and they end in a full stop. So, just a simple plain positive sentence is what we call affirmative sentence. Now, then comes the word, the type of sentence, negative sentence. Now, what are the negative sentences? These are sentences that have no or not in the middle of a sentence. So, Priya is not working these days. You were not present in the class yesterday. There are no students in the class now, and Kamal doesn't have a car. So, students, generally you are asked to transform an affirmative sentence into a negative one. So, how do we do that? And this is something that we are going to learn right now. But before that, let us have a look at the third type of sentence also. What is the third type? Interrogative sentence. Now, interrogative sentences are sentences that ask a question. They do not have they may or may not have no or not, but they will always end in a question mark. So, why is Priya not working these days? Why were you not present in the class yesterday? Is Ram present in the office now? Or have you brought my book? So, students, take a look. An interrogative question is one that asks a question, and finally, this is the third type of This is the third type of sentence that we have. So, and these three types of sentences also have different types of verbs. So, students, you have a main verb and you have a helping verb. So, what is the difference? A main verb is, you know, eat, drink, sleep, read, think, drive, and these are not all. So, these are called the main verbs, while helping verbs are again, you know, further two types. Some are called auxiliary verbs like is, am, are, was, were, do, does, did, has, have, had, and modal auxiliary verbs are you know, which are taken from the models can, could, may, might, shall, should, will, would. So, these are the types of verbs that you notice in all three kinds of sentences. Now, the universal formula of making a sentence in English is that you have a subject, you have a verb and you have an object. Now, students, you would probably ask me, ma'am, we do not know what is a subject, what a verb is or what an object is. So, students, I am going to share some very easy tricks to identify these three components of a sentence also. Subject is anyone who is, you know, doing the action in the sentence. So, whatever the sentence is all about. So, if I am talking about I, then I is the subject. If I am talking about he, then he is the subject. If I am talking about, you know, we or Ram or Seema or Priya or anyone. So, the whoever is the doer in a sentence is the subject. Verb, verb is the action in the sentence. So, whatever is happening in the sentence is your verb. So, if it is eating, then eating is the verb, drinking, that is the verb, sleeping can also be a verb. You would say, ma'am, sleeping, nothing is happening in sleeping, but you know, that is the action. Even not doing anything can also be an action. And finally, the object, whatever is left in the sentence can be the object. Isn't it easy? So, never get confused. Subject is the person who is doing, verb is the action and whatever is left is the object. So, this was the universal formula for a sentence in English: subject, verb, object. I am sharing some examples with you, something like I read newspaper, he plays cricket, you work very hard, she comes every day. So, you know, this is your simple affirmative sentence and you do not have any helping verb in these sentences. But what happens when you have an helping verb also? So, then where are you going to put the helping verb? Naturally, the helping verb would come before the verb. So, what becomes the formula? The formula becomes subject plus helping verb plus main verb plus object. So, I am reading newspaper, he did not arrive, you are working very hard. So, this becomes your normal affirmative sentence with a helping verb. Now, students, you notice that the main verb is compulsory in all sentences, but the helping verb is not compulsory at all. You can have a sentence without helping verb, but you cannot have a sentence without main verb. Now, how do we make our negative sentences? Now, the trick here is that you are going to add not before the main verb. Where are you going to add not? Now, students, even I used to get confused in this. Say for example, you have a sentence, Priya is working these days. When they asked me to make a negative sentence with this, I would probably say that Priya is working these nights. Isn't that the opposite of Priya is working these days? But no, the trick is to remember that the word not is going to come before the verb, before the action. So, Priya is working these days, the negative sentence is going to be Priya is not working these days. You were present in the class yesterday, you were not present in the class yesterday. and say for example, I was absent yesterday, I was not absent yesterday. So students, now you know how to make negative sentences from affirmative ones. And what does the formula become? That you have to add not, but what happens in another condition? There you are going to add do, does or did plus not. And what kind of sentences will you make there? Say for example, you have this sentence, Priya works in a bank these days. So what will you make it? You will make Priya does not work in a bank these days. You play football very well, you do not play football very well. Ravi liked ice cream, Ravi didn't like ice cream. So students, are you ready for a little activity time? Yes? Now this is your turn. You need to rewrite the following sentences in the negative. And I am not going to help you at all. Think of it as your homework. So please note it down, and you are going to convert these sentences into the negative. I know you are going to come out with flying colors there. And finally, how do we make interrogative sentences? So students, remember, what did we say? We said that interrogative sentences are sentences that ask questions. So how do you make them? Start the sentence with a helping verb. And if required, you need to place WH words. Now what are these WH words? What, when, where, why. These are the WH words. So students, you can have a look at these examples. You were not absent from class. You need to make an interrogative sentence. What will you do? You are going to move the verb were out of this. So you will make, were you not absent from this class? And if you are allowed to use the WH word, then what will you do? You will say, when were you not absent from the class? So you can have a look at these examples, and we have this formula. What is the formula here? So in sentences without helping verb, you are adding do, does, did, that means then subject, then main verb. So you start that, and you also add WH word before do, does. Now the most important thing to note here is that all interrogative sentences always start with some of these words, any of these words, either a WH word or a helping verb. So students, there are two kinds of questions that you have finally, close-ended questions and open-ended questions. For close-ended questions, you only have yes or no kinds of answers, and open-ended questions are the ones which are asked to give further information. So students, one more activity time. You need to rewrite these sentences in the interrogative. So students, like I said, this is your homework. I hope you enjoyed today's session and learned a lot. I am sure we will definitely be back with some more learning sessions. Thank you.
कोविड-19 यानी कोरोना वायरस देश